Krishna. So welcome for discussion on Bhagavad Gita. So today we are continuing on our 15th chapter discussion. So before we start, we'll do a short revision. Okay, so in this chapter we have been seeing the first section in 15th chapter. Krishna is telling about this tree of the material world, the tree of attachment, and how one can become, how one can actually cut down this tree by the acts of detachment. So first verse we saw Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakham Ashwatham Prahur Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit. So Krishna told here that how this tree, it is said that there is an imperishable Avyayam banyan tree, Ashwatham, and it has its roots upwards and its branches downwards, whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. And one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Okay, so he is a Vedavit. This was first verse. Second verse continued to describe about this tree, some more details. Yeah. Adhasya urdhvam prashishtas tasya sakha guna pravriddha vishaya pravala. Adhasya mulani anusantatani karmanubandhini manushya loke. So this verse describes the sakha, the branches of this tree extend downward and upward. And how are they nourished? They are nourished by the three modes. Pravriddha guna, the three modes of the material nature. About these three modes, it was already described in the previous chapter. The twigs, pravala, are the objects of the senses, vishaya. The tree, this tree also has roots going down. Adhacha mulani, anu santatani, and these are bound, anubandhini, to fruitive actions, karma, of human society. So actually in Bhagavad Gita, there is a picture given for this, the two verses, the tree, which is the upward, downward tree. So this, we will see some details here. So first we can see at the top, the desire is there, and it is reflected from the spiritual world into the material world. The topmost, that means the root of the tree, the root is at the top. So the topmost thing, that is the root, is Brahma. And there are other demigods which we can see Surya Dev here on the left side of Brahmaji. Like here Ganesha is there. So the demigods, the demigod planetary system is here. And Indra sitting on Airavata, he is here. Other Kinnaras, Gandharvas, Chanaras, all these are here. And the Vedic hymn that is portrayed here, the Vedic hymns. And apart from that, as we go below, so there is earth, liberation. Yeah, liberation is the topmost fruit of the tree. If you remember, it was mentioned, the liberation is the topmost fruit of the tree. So that liberation is here. Okay. And then that is moksha. Then there is artha, economic development. Okay. Dharma, religiosity. That is according to Varnashrama system. One does his prescribed duties that you mentioned here. And there is kama that you mentioned here. That is also one of the fruits of the tree, of the material world. Then impious activities take one downwards to the lower species, like you can see here deers, and even more lower species like snakes, then tortoise. All these lower species are here below. Yeah. And then pious activities take one upwards. Okay. And those who are in mode of goodness, they go upwards like that. And then pious activities are actually described in the Vedic hymns. Yeah, then it was mentioned here, the sense objects, they are the twigs. Okay. And there are secondary roots also which were mentioned. So the senses are also there. And we will see later in this chapter, as Krishna has described, that how he is empowering the sense objects, that which is good to eat, good to hear, good to smell. All these are empowered by Krishna. Krishna says that I only myself give them the empowerment. Okay. So this is the painting which is done by BBT in the Bhagavad Gita. And then we go ahead, third and fourth verses we saw that how the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world, because it's not a tree which we see in the world, but it's a thing which is uh, in the form of a allegory. It is mentioned here. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with the determination, dridhena, chitva, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree. Suvirudha moolam. Its roots are very strongly rooted. How does one cut? With the weapon shastrena asangena of the detachment, the acts of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, no one returns. So that is the Brahman, or the spiritual abode, and there surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began. Okay, that was third and fourth verses. Yeah. Then fifth verse we saw the qualities of such a person who can attain the spiritual world. What are the qualities of such a person? Nirman moha, chitasanga dosha, adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha, dvandvair mumukta sukha dukkha samye, gachanti amudha padam avyayam tat. He will attain that padam avyayam, the imperishable pada, or the abode. Okay, who amudha? How has he become amudha? Because he has these qualities: nirman moha, jitasanga dosha, all these things. So, free from false prestige, illusion, false association, who understands the eternal, adhyatma nityaha, who are done with material lust, who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who are unbewildered. They know how to surrender and enter that eternal kingdom. The next section was the transmigration, 6th to 11th. So here Krishna speaks about, or he gives qualities of the spiritual world. Na tad bhashyate suryo na sashanko na pavakah yad gattvam nivartante tad dhama parama mama. So that supreme abode of mine is not illumined by sun, moon, electricity, fire, and those who reach it will never return. Yeah, then Krishna continues. He says, what are the relationship of the living entities with that or with me? Mamaya amsho, jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. They are my amsha. And what are they doing in the middle world? Manasasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. They are struggling very hard in the middle world to um, enjoy through the senses, six senses. Yeah, then Krishna continues in the 8th verse. Sariram yadavapnoti yatchapi utkramatishvaraha grihitvani samyati vayu gandha nivasayat. And this living entity in that terms of enjoyment, he goes through various bodies, and while going through various bodies, he carries his subtle body also. How? The analogy is given of Vayur Gandha Nivasya, just like the wind carry the aroma or the fragrance from a flower. And what does Paramatma do? He accompanies such a living entity. Utkramantam sitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhananu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So the foolish cannot understand. Vimudhananu pashyanti. But who can understand? Jnana chakshusha, who see through the eyes of the scriptures or the knowledge. They can actually see. What they don't understand. How a living entity can quit his body, that cannot be understood by them. Okay. While situated in it under the spell of the modes. But one whose eyes are trained by the knowledge can see all this. And then here he explains that who are such people. The yatanto yoginas chainam pashyanti atmani avasthitam yatanto api akritatmano nainam pashyanti achetasaha. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in the self-realization can see all this clearly, situated in the self. But those whose minds are not developed achetasaha, who are not situated in the self-realization, cannot see what is taking place, though they may try like that. Yatantaha api. they cannot actually attain the knowledge. And the next section, what we saw was Krishna's position as our maintainer. So Krishna maintains all the sense objects, all the living entities, all the senses also. Why? Because Krishna may wants to make sure that what the living entity is desiring, if he is desiring to enjoy, then he gives the facilities. यद आदित्य गतम तेजो जगद भास्यते अखिलम यद चंद्रांसि यद चाग्नो यद तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकम. The splendor of the sun, which illuminates the darkness of this world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. Understand that. 13th verse, Krishna said that Ram avishya cha bhutani dharyami aham ojasa ushnami chausadhi sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmakaha. I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So he gives the juice to or life to all the sense objects also, so that the living entity can try to enjoy. Aham vaishwanaro bhutva praninam deha ashritah pranapana samayuktah pachami annam chaturvidham. And he himself becomes the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, pranina. And I join with the air of life outgoing and incoming, prana apana sama yuktah, to digest the four kinds of foodstuffs. Till here we saw, and now today we will continue with the next verse, the 15th verse, that Krishna is continuing this theme of how he assists the various living entities in this material world. So we will continue from here. सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानम् अपोहनं च वेदश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम्. Gayatri Mata, you want to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I am aham, seated in everyone's heart, sarvasya riddhi sanivishta, and from me, matta, come remembrance, smriti, knowledge, jnanam, and forgetfulness, apohanam. By all the Vedas, sarve vede, I am certainly to be known, aham eva vedya. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, Vedanta Krit, and I am the knower of the Vedas, Vedavid.
Thank you. So Krishna is continuing his description about the existence of this material world and his contribution. Obviously, everything is existing on his energies only, but specific things he is mentioning. So I am seated in everyone's heart. Sarvasya hridi sannivishtaha. And what he is doing? Three activities are mentioned. What he is doing, being seated. So mattaha smritihi. So comes remembrance from me. And then knowledge, jnanam, and apohanam, the forgetfulness. So all three have their own roles, their own requirements in the living entity's life. Some things he has to remember, some things he has to forget, and some things he has to know. So these three are always needed. By all the Vedas, sarvaihe vedehe, I am certainly to be known. Okay. Yam eva vedyaha. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, Vedanta Krit, and the knower of the Vedas, Vedavit. Please read.
The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all pervading, He is also localized in every individual heart. He awards different fruitive activities.
Yeah.
Results.
Yeah. So Krishna is speaking about him, these three things. So Prabhupada is first explaining about the Paramatma, the situated Paramatma in the heart. He does all these activities. Okay. So what are the activities? So first is living entity has to forget apohanam of his past life, because so many atrocities why we must have undergone in the past life actually. and so many troubles which we have gone, so many difficult times we have gone through. So those things, if we keep remembering, then there will be lot of pain. The pain in this life, whatever we remember, that is itself very distressful, correct? And so many people commit suicide because the pain of this life only. So what to speak of the pain in the previous lives if we start remembering? Okay, so nobody will want to live also. Okay, so Krishna gives the forgetfulness, and but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Okay, whatever previous karma is there, based on that. Yeah, required knowledge is supplied. So that is smriti, jnanam. Sorry, the jnanam is supplied to him. And remembrance, smriti, is given to him. And he forgets also about his past life. The Lord is not only all pervading, he is also localized as Paramatma. So all pervading in the form of Brahman and localized in the form of Paramatma. He awards the different fruitive results. Now continue.
He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as a form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasadeva is the compiler of Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra.
Yeah, so now Prabhupada is speaking about Vedanta Krid, that he is the compiler of the Vedas. Okay, so he has not said here that he is uh, creator of the Vedas, because obviously Vedas are eternal, Lord is also eternal, just like the Lord has not created the Jivas. Similarly, the Lord has not created the Vedas. The Vedas are eternal. Okay, but it is coming from him. He is a source, but he did not create it at any time. Okay, so he is a compiler. And then, as in the incarnation as Vyasadeva, he comes in every yuga and also he compiles whatever is destroyed or whatever is becoming unseen. Yeah. So he is the person who gives the direction of to the people. So previously it was mentioned how he gives the direction from within in the form of Paramatma. And now he's saying how he gives the direction from outside in the form of the Vedas. Okay, like that. And then also, as Vyasadeva, he has compiled his Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which tells us what is the essence of all the Vedas. Yeah, continue.
The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good. God is all merciful. Antapravishta Shasta Jananam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life.
Yeah. So here Prabhupada is saying now the Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and the digester of foodstuff. So previously, as we saw the last verse itself, so pachami annaha aham vaishvanaro bhutva. Okay, for the digestive fire he becomes. Okay, and also he is the supplier. He only supplies the rasa to the foodstuffs through the moonshine. Somo bhutva rasatmakam. So I only supply the taste and I only give them the power to digest. Okay, like that. The foodstuff. The witness of his activity. And also he becomes a Paramatma. And in that form of Paramatma, he gives the knowledge. He becomes the giver of the knowledge in the form of Vedas. and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, the teacher of Bhagavad Gita. So through internally, through the Paramatma, externally through the Vedas, Shruti and Smritis, like that. So he is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus God is all good. He is all merciful. Yeah. And then Prabhupada is quoting this Antah Pravishtah Shashta Jananam. So living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body. Okay. Even though he carries a subtle body, that is mind, intelligence, and ego, but some of the remembrances are there, some of the things he forgets. So here he is saying that, but if begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. And what does he remember? Here he mentions that the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his life. So not that he ended as a PhD, so next life he will start second PhD. Not in the material sense, not in the material knowledge. Material knowledge almost everybody forgets, but that which is in the form of the yoga which he was practicing. Just like in the sixth chapter, it mentioned, Krishna is asked by Arjuna that what happens to a person who has not completed his yoga but he falls down? What will happen to him? So Krishna says, Suchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Nashto Abhijayate. Yoga Bhrashto Abhijayate. So if the yogi, he becomes Bhrashta, means he falls down from his path, then Suchinam Srimatam Gehe, he will not be lost. So Arjuna is asking, is he lost like a raven cloud in the air? No. Krishna says, no, he is not lost, but he says that he will be taking birth in a suitable family where he can continue his past yogic practices or his spiritual practices. That is true for all. Jnana yogi, karma yogi, bhakti yogi, everybody. Anybody who is practicing any spiritual path which is going to liberate him, that will be remaining with him. Okay. So there he says that how in the next life he will be pushed in that direction. Okay. So what is that verse he mentions? Uh, now how it starts. Okay, I'm not remembering now. But in the past life, whatever he has done, so he will be pushed in that direction in the spiritual life in the next life also. Okay. Yeah, continue.
So, not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yo sau sarver Veder Giyate. In all the Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated.
Yeah. So not only externally but also internally, locally in the heart as Paramatma, he gives the opportunity to understand the Vedic knowledge. Okay. And when one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then he gives also the required intelligence. So the question is asked, why does he present the Vedic knowledge at all? Okay, so because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. So why? Because previously it was mentioned also, Mameva Amsho Jivaloke Jivbhuta Sanatana, Manasasthani Indriyani Prakritisthani Karshati. So this very thing that living entity is his part and parcel, that is forgotten by living entity. So for that knowledge to be revived, Vedic literatures are given. So in all Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, Upanishads, and Purana, the glories of Supreme Lord are celebrated. Yeah, continue.
By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of the Vedic philosophy, and the worship of the Lord in devotional service, he is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas gives us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.4 confirms this in the following words: Tattu Samanvayat. One can attain perfection in three stages.
Yeah, so Prabhupada is continuing that the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. Sarva, so there he is quoting Vedant Krid, Ved Videva Chaham. Correct. So I am only to be known. Ved Vid, I am to be known from the Vedas. I am this, what we can say, the object, the subject matter of the Vedas, the object of the knowledge. Like that. Yeah, so Vedas gives us direction to understand Krishna and process of realizing him. Yeah, so like somebody who has been trained into Bhakti Yoga, so he will be practicing Bhakti Yoga. Somebody who was trained into Ashtanga Yoga, Gyan Yoga, okay, whichever, that path he will continue in the next life. So ultimate goal they will all attain is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in different forms. Somebody will attain in the form of Brahman, somebody will attain in the form of the Paramatma, somebody will attain in the form of the Bhagavan, like that. Yeah. So one can attain the perfection in 3 stages. Yeah, continue.
By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him, and at the end, one can attain the Supreme Goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined.
Yeah, so this verse, what was mentioned, purpose of the Vedas, to give direction to the human being. The understanding of the Vedas, okay, what is the understanding of the Vedas? That living entity needs to understand Krishna, okay, and the goal of the Vedas to understand Krishna and go back to his spiritual abode. These are described. Okay. Yeah, so we will continue the next section. This is second last section. This is 3 Shloki Gita. So Chatushloki Gita we have heard in the 10th chapter. Here is 3 Shloki Gita. So 3 Shloki Gita means, okay, any questions are there on what we discussed till now before we continue? Okay, if there are no questions, then we'll continue. So 3 Shloki Gita, why it is called? Basically, Gita has these 5 most important concepts which is described, right? We have Ishvara, and we have Jiva, we have a Karma, we have a Kala, correct? All these 5 things are described. So among them, majority of the topics will be covered in these 3 shlokas. So what are they? So here we will discuss about the Jiva. Okay. So Jiva will be described. And 2 types of Jiva will be described, Akshara and Chara. Those who are not liberated and those who are liberated. So that will be described. Then Purusha will be also described. Okay. That is the Lord. And also Prakriti will be described here. Okay. That the nature. Okay. These 3 will be described. So first 16th verse here. Dvaimao Purusho Loke Charashchakshara Evacha Chara Sarvani Bhutani Utastho Akshara Uchyate. Vrajananda Krishna Prabhu, you want to read?
There are 2 classes of beings in the world, the fallible and infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called as infallible.
No, thank you. So now Krishna is speaking about the 2 classes of the living entity. So Chara and Akshara. So Dvaimo are, who are they? Purusho. So who are they in this world? Chara, that is fallible, and the infallible, Akshara. And every living entity, Sarvani Bhutani, in this material world, everybody is fallible, is not liberated. Chara, fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Okay, they are ever liberated. Okay, Nitya Siddha, they are. Okay, like that. Yeah, continue.
As already explained, the Lord in his incarnation as Vyasdev compiled the Vedanta Sutra. Here the Lord is giving in summary the content of the Vedanta Sutra. He says that the living entities who are innumerable can be divided into 2 classes, the fallible and the infallible. The living entities are eternally separated parts and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they are in contact with the material world, they are called Jiva Bhuta, and the Sanskrit words given here, Ksharaha Sarvani Bhutani, means they are fallible.
Yeah. The Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha, that words also we see sometimes. Okay. That are eternal, but these are the living entities which are in the material world. So eternally they are here like that. Sharaha, they are Nitya Baddha. Yeah. So yeah, Prabhupada in summary here he is saying that how the contents of the Vedanta Sutra is given in this 3 verses. Okay. So what are the first things? Living entity has two classes, infallible and fallible, like that. So those who are eternally separated, parts and parts. So this is like the as we discussed last time, if you remember, that Krishna has two types of expansions. One is the Swayam Prakash, that means uh, Vishnu Tattvas, and those who are separated. Okay. So the separated parts are the Jiva Tattva. Okay, whether it be Nitya Siddha or Nitya Baddha. So both are separated energies, like that. Yeah, continue.
Those who are in the oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, are called infallible. Oneness does not mean that they have no individuality, but that there is no disunity. They are all agreeable to the purpose of the creation. Of course, in the spiritual world, there is no such thing as creation, but since the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, is the source of all emanations, and that conception is explained.
Yeah. So those who are in oneness with the Supreme Person of Godhead, however, are called infallible. So oneness in the sense not that they are merged. That meaning also can be taken. But here what Prabhupada is saying, that oneness in quality. Okay. They have attained to the spiritual qualities. Okay. Like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. And obviously, as we understand living entity, uh, so they are separated, but they have minute quantity, even though they may be liberated, but they cannot have the qualities equal to the quantity that the spiritual, the Supreme Lord has. The quantity will always be remaining minute. Okay, bindu bindu taya bhati, as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says. So Krishna is like the ocean of qualities, but the living entity is like bindu bindu taya. He is like the very small small drops of like that. So, however, they are infallible. The who are infallible? Those who are in oneness, means those who are in the spiritual world. Oneness does not mean that they have no individuality, but they are having no disunity. They are one in purpose. So they want to serve Krishna like that. So they are all agreeable to the purpose of creation. Of course, in the spiritual world, there is no such thing as creation. So it is always eternally there. Okay. Since Supreme Son of Godhead, as stated in Vedanta Sutra, is a source of all emanations, the conception is explained. Yeah. Yeah, continue.
According to the statements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, there are two classes of living entities. The Vedas give evidences of this, so there is no doubt about it. The living entities who are struggling in this world with the mind and five senses have their material bodies, which are changing. As long as the living entity is conditioned, his body changes due to contact with matter. Matter is changing, so the living entity appears to be changing. But the spiritual world, in the spiritual world, the body is not made of matter. Therefore, there is no change.
Yeah. So Prabhupada is continuing with the statement that Supreme Son of Godhead Krishna, there are two classes of living entities, Dva imau Purusho Loke Chara Akshara Evacha. So that part he is now describing. The Vedas give evidence of this. Okay. The living entity who are struggling in this world with the five, with the mind and the five senses, manasasthani indriyani prakirtisthani karshati, have their material bodies which are changing. So what kind of changes happen? The six types of changes which we have discussed earlier, right? They take birth, they give byproducts, they grow, and all these changes are happening, right? And ultimately they die. So as long as the living entity is conditioned, his body changes due to contact with matter. But that does not happen with the spiritual body. So the spiritual body is not like the material body, which changes. Okay, it can change if there is need for any seva like that in the spiritual world, but occasionally it can happen. Otherwise, it is Satchidananda. And matter is changing. So the living entity appears to be changing. So everybody grows from a small child to boyhood to adulthood to youthhood, all these things, and then old, and then he becomes old. But in the spiritual world, the body is not made of matter. There is no change. So Krishna eternally remains 16 years, and all the associates remain eternally that age. Yeah, continue.
In the material world, the living entity undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, duration, reproduction, then dwindling and vanishing. These are the changes of the material body. But in the spiritual world, the body does not change. There is no old age, there is no birth, there is no death. There is all exist in oneness. Sharak Sharvani Bhutani, any living entity who has come in contact with matter, beginning from the first created being, Brahma, down to a small ant, is changing its body. Therefore, they are all fallible. In the spiritual world, however, they are always liberated in oneness.
Yeah. So these 6 changes Prabhupada has mentioned that happen in the material world. And these are the changes only in the material body, not in the spiritual body. Okay. But obviously, when the spiritual entities, when they come to this material world, they show the effects of the material body, like growing. Okay. They take birth. So these all things they show like that, but actually they are beyond it. So Prabhupada many times gives the example of the sun, how the sun is unchanging, but it seems to be rising like that and then setting. But in the spiritual world, the body does not change. There is no old age, there is no birth, there is no death. These are all they are all exists in oneness. Yeah, and then Chara Sarvani Bhutani, this verse he quoted, and then he explaining this part. Any living entity who has come in this contact of matter, beginning from the first created being, that is Brahma, to the small ant, everybody, they are all fallible. Chara Sarvani Bhutani, all the living entities are fallible. Okay. In the spiritual world, however, they are always liberated ones. Okay. We'll read this is important section, so we'll read some more commentary. Okay. Read the Baldev Vidyabhushan. Yeah. Please read. Prabhu.
The Lord now summarizes the meaning of the Vedas as defined by Bhadranarayan.
Badrayana. That is
Bhadrayan.
Vyasadeva. Yeah.
The meaning of the word loka is that by which the truth is perceived, lokayate. Thus, loka means Veda. In the Vedas, 2 types of men, Purusho, are celebrated, Katito are confirmed. Who are they? One is destructible, Ksharaha, going through many changes because of having a destructible body. He is bound up because of mixing with the material world.
Yeah, so same thing. Baldev Vidyabhushan also explaining 2 types of living entities are there. In this loka is that which is perceived, which is seen through the eyes. That is loka. Yeah. So here he is saying that 2 types of men are there. Dvaimo, Purusha Loke. And who are they? The first is Chara, going through many changes. Those 6 changes which Prabhupada also told. Those 6 changes. Because of having a destructible material body. He is bound up because of mixing with the material world. Continue.
The other is situated in a single condition because of not having a destructible body, Aksharaha. He is liberated because of having no connection with the material world. The 2 are further described. The destructible refers to all the beings from Brahma to the immovable beings, Sarva Bhutani. The indestructible is always in one state, Utastaha, ever liberated. The delineation of the whole group by the singular case can be understood in connection with the previous statements such as Bahavo Janna Tapasa and Idam Jnanam Upastritya. There such liberated souls are mentioned as many.
Yeah. So first was Akshara. Second one, Baldev Devotion is saying, is Akshara, who have a not a destructible body. Okay. They don't have. They are having a spiritual body. Why? Because they are liberated, ever liberated. And they have no connection with the material world. Okay. And they are further described. The destructible refers to all that beings from Brahma. That also Prabhupada also told same thing. Brahma to all the other living entities, like that. Yeah. And they are ever changeless. Okay. They are never changing. Okay. Who? Those who are Aksharaha. Like that. Yeah. And then two references he is giving. The delineation of the whole group by singular class. Okay. That is clear. Okay. Any question on what we discussed? This verse? Okay. So this was first of the three Shloki Gitas. Next, 17th, second one. Uttamaha Purushastu Anyaha Paramatmeti Udahritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibharti Avyaya Ishwaraha. Yeah. Sarveshri Adhika Mataji, can read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Besides these two Anya, there is the greatest living personality, Uttama Purusa, the Supreme Soul, Paramatma Iti, the imperishable Lord Himself, Avyaya Iswara, who has entered Avishya, the three worlds, Lokatraya, Tayam, and is maintaining them, Vibhati.
Yeah. The first verse, that was 16th verse, described about the Jiva Tattva, Akshara and Shara. And now he is describing about the Purusha. The Purusha here means, obviously last verse also the word Purusha came. Dua imo Purusha loke. But that Purusha is not the original enjoyer. But the one who is trying to enjoy, trying to become a Purusha, like that. But actual Purusha, Uttamah Purusha, the one who is actually the Purusha, one who is actually the enjoyer, that is the Purusha Tattva is described in this verse. Okay. So Uttama Purusha to Anyaha, he is different from whom both the things which were described earlier. And how is he different? He is Uttamaha, because he is superior to both. Superior to whom? Both. The Akshara, okay, and the Chara. Okay, these both he is superior to. And what is his name called? Paramatme iti. He is called Paramatma. Udahirita. Ya loko trayam avishya. Okay. So he is said he has entered avishya, the three worlds, lokatrayam. And what else he does? Bibhrati, Avya Ishvara. Bibhrati. He also maintains them. Okay, just like Krishna was saying, so Somo Bhutta Risatmaka, I Gama Avishya Bhutani, Dharyani Aham Ojasa, I become the force by which all the planets are floating. I give the juices to the substances which are food stuffs. 6 kind of juices I give, 6 kind of taste I give. I become the digestifier. All these things, by doing all this, he is maintaining this material world. Bibhrati. Avyaha. Now continue.
The idea of this verse is very nicely expressed in the Katha Upanishad and Svetasvatara Upanishad. It is clearly stated that above the innumerable living entities, some of whom are conditioned and some of whom are liberated, there is the Supreme Personality who is Paramatma. The Upanishadic verse runs as follows: Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetnanam. The purport is that almost all the living entities, both conditioned and liberated, there is one supreme living personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintains them and gives them all the facility of enjoyment according to different work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. A wise man who can understand him is eligible to attain the perfect peace, not others.
Yeah. So now Prabhupada is saying about this two kinds of living entities are there. Above them is Paramatma. Uttama. Okay. Yeah, so he is Uttama from the who Chara and Akshara both. Condition as well as the liberated. From both of them, he is Uttama. He is above. Uttamaha. And then reference is given Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So he is the eternal among all the eternals. So he is the supreme or prime eternal among all the eternals. So who are these eternals? So they are this who are Kshara and Akshara, two types of living entities. And he is the supreme conscious being among all those who are conscious. Chetanas Chetananam. Okay, so that Prabhupada said here. Yeah. So the purport is that amongst all living entities, both condition. So this I explain. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart. Hridi Sannivishtaha as Paramatma, Paramatmeti Chapyukto. A wise man who can understand this, him is eligible to attain perfect peace, not others. Okay. So that's how this chapter actually started. And previous chapter also ended in this way only. That how one who knows the object of the Vedas or Supreme Personality of Godhead, he actually can attain liberation, not others. And here also it was said in this chapter that one who is actually not foolish, he can actually gain this knowledge and attain supreme abode. Yeah. Okay. We will continue Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary. Okay, on this it's not there. Last verse of this. Yasmat Ksharam Atito Ham Aksharad Apichottamaha Ato Asmi Loke Vedecha Prathita Purushottamah. Pratik, do you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Because Yasmad, I am transcendental, Atitaha, beyond both the fallible Ksharam and the infallible Akshadat Api. And because I am the greatest, Cha Uttamaha, I am celebrated, Pratishtitaha, both in the world, Loke, and in the Vedas, Vede, as the Supreme Person. Ataha Asmi Purushottamaha.
Yeah, thank you. So he is saying that how I am the Purushottamaha. That's why this chapter name is Purushottam Yoga. Okay, because he is the Supreme Lord. He is the Purushottamaha. Okay, among whom? So already told I am Uttama. Now in this verse he is saying Atitaha. I am Atita means I am beyond or I am transcendental. Yeah. I am transcendental to whom? Yasmat Sharam Atitoham Aksharadapi Cha Uttamaha. And I'm also above the Akshara, the liberated Jivas. So I am transcendental and beyond the fallible, that is first class of the living entities, and the infallible, that is the second class of living entity. So I am beyond these two. And because I am the greatest, Cha Uttamaha, I am celebrated in the world, in the Vedas, as the supreme person, Purushottama, Prathita Purushottamaha. Yeah. Yeah, continue.
No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. He is therefore the greatest personalities. Now it is clear here that the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are individuals. The difference is that the living entity, either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, cannot surpass the quality, the inconceivable potencies
Quantity.
of quantity and the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is incorrect to think of the Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects.
Yeah, so similar concept that was explained last verse, that how he is Uttamaha. Now he is explaining about the Atitaha and Uttamaha. So he is beyond, or he is transcendental, or he is above all the living entities. And also another point here is mentioned that Purushottamaha. So that means the personality of Godhead is an individual. Okay. He is a Purusha. He is a Purushottamaha. Okay. That means he is above all the individuals. Okay. So he has to be an individual. The difference, what is the difference? That is that the living entity is either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state cannot surpass the quantity, the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's what, as I said. So even though the qualities of the living entity and the Supreme Lord may be same, but in quantity, there will always be a massive difference. Okay, the Supreme Lord will be like the ocean, okay, of the quality, but the living entity will be like Bindu, just like a droplet of water. That will be the difference. Yeah. So it is incorrect to think that the Supreme Lord and the living entity as being on the same level or equal in all respects. So they are not equal in all respects. Okay. So even though we say sometimes that in quality the living entity is same, quantity though it is different only, but sometimes we also say that in quality the living entity and the Supreme Lord is same. That is also not true fully. In quality also we are not same, because Lord is having unlimited qualities. Living entities will never have all the unlimited qualities that the Supreme Lord has, and his qualities are always increasing. So even in quality we are not same, and surely not about the quantity. Okay. Yeah, continue.
There is always the question of superiority and inferiority between their personalities. The word Uttam is very significant. No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word lowest in the Purusha Agama, the Smriti scriptures. As confirmed in the Nirukta dictionary, Lokyate Vedartho Anena, the purpose of the Vedas is explained by the Smriti scriptures. The Supreme Lord, in his localized aspect of Paramatma, is also described in the Vedas themselves.
Yeah, so Uttama, this point Prabhupada is explaining, that is the word in this verse, Uttamaha. Another one was Atita. So, na Atita, nobody can surpass him and nobody is above him. Okay, whether it be fallible or infallible divinities, liberated or non-liberated, all, including everyone. Okay. So this, for this he quotes few references, and he is in the localized aspect of Paramatma. He also described in the Vedas themselves. Yeah. Continue.
In the following verse appears in the Vedas, Chandogya Upanishad, Tavad Esha Samprasado Asmat Charitat Samuthyaya Param Jyoti Rupam Samtya Svena Rupana Bhinishpadyati Cha Upanishah. The Supreme the super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Then, in his form, he remains in his spiritual identity. That supreme is called the Supreme Personality. This means that the Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. That Supreme Personality also has a localized aspect as Paramatma by incarnating himself as the son of Satyavati and he gains the knowledge as Vyasadeva.
Yeah. So now Prabhupada is quoting few references from Chandogya Upanishad. He has quoted one. The super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Then, in his form, he remains in his spiritual identity. That supreme is called the Supreme Personality. Okay. And then he says that this means that the Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. So it is actually Brahmano hi Pratishtha Aham. So Krishna himself is actually the Pratishtha, or the Adhar, or the foundation of the spiritual entity Brahman. Okay. So Supreme Personality of Godhead also has a localized aspect, the Paramatma aspect, as Paramatma. by incarnating himself as the son of the Satyavati and Parashar, that is as a Vyasadeva, he explains the Vedic knowledge, all this. Yeah. Okay, we will read Baldevidya Bhushan's commentary here. Almost same. That's not included. Almost the same. Okay, any question on what we discussed till now? These three verses.
So just those last slide which we discussed, the
This one?
flow or the why Prabhupada is saying, I couldn't understand. I mean, what
This
is the
slide?
link what is the link between the verse and these 3 points?
Here, what is mentioned, no?
Yes.
Yeah, so this super soul, it's mentioned like he is saying, as a Purusha, he is Uttama. He is beyond, see the shloka here, 2 words were used. Uttamaha, Purushas, and other one is, Uttama Purusha. Where is that? Yes, this verse, yeah. See, Uttama word is used here. And also here, Atita. Okay. So these 2 words are used, this for transcending. Okay. And then what he is saying, Atita, and where is other Uttama? Greatest. So first he is establishing these 2 points, that how he is transcendental, beyond basically, and how he is above, even in quality or quantity. These 2 points are mentioned in the verse. Atosmi loke vedecha prathita purushottama, and I am worshipped or I am considered like the Purushottama, the what is say Purusha. In the Purushas, I am the Uttama. Okay, so this word Uttama is used 3 times. Here is Uttama, and here also again Uttama was used, and Atita also means similar thing. And last verse also this same thing was used. Just previous slide I showed, no? Yeah, here. The previous verse, 17th verse also this same thing was mentioned. Okay. So what was the question you asked? Yeah, this slide, correct. You are asking about this now. What was the question exactly?
Yes, Fuji. How, I mean, Prabhupada is explaining what exactly the link between this
Yeah.
3 points and the
Yeah.
verse?
Yeah, see here, Prabhupada told. This Uttama he was explaining, right? The same thing. Nobody can surpass him. The same Uttama point he is explaining, he is continuing. He gave 2 references here, and then one more in the next slide he will give. The Supreme Lord, in his localized aspect of Paramatma, this Paramatma only he is speaking, which is like the Uttama. That is also described in the Vedas. So this Paramatma aspect is described in the Vedas. Where it is described in Vedas, that is Chandogya Upanishad. Okay, so this is about the Paramatma aspect.
Okay.
He quoted. Okay. Okay, Paramatmeti Chapyukto, like that. So this means that Supreme Godhead is exhibiting and diffusing spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. Okay, this point where it is coming from is this only. Here he mentioned that the Paramatma, he enters into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Okay, so the Super Soul enters the Brahma Jyoti. So he is saying from here that the Brahma Jyoti actually is the illumination or the light coming out of this Supreme Purusha. The Supreme Purusha is there. From him, this Brahma Jyoti light is coming. That is what is to be understood. Okay, this point is connected to this reference only. Okay. Not much with the shloka in that sense directly. Okay, but to explain this point, he is telling. Okay, and then last, that personality of Godhead is also a localized aspect, Paramatma, by incarnating himself as the son of Satyavati and as Vyasadeva. So this point he is telling, this as Vyasadevi comes, so he is telling about this verse, 15th verse, actually. Okay, 15.15. Vedant Krit Vedavide Chaham. So like that he is saying that from all the Vedas I am to be known, and then he comes as a Vyasadeva to write down that Veda. Okay, or compile that Vedas, like that. So this is how these 3 points are there.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question? What we discussed till now?
So this Prabhuji, one more thing, not question, but just so Prabhuji, these 3 shlokas, they are very clearly explaining that Supreme Personality of Godhead is even separate from the, not separate in the sense, but yeah, he is different than the Kshara and Akshara, and even in the Akshara, so it is so very clearly explained. But how this Gita is then interpreted, these three shlokas in particular, interpreted by Mayavadis or Brahmavadis, that there is no supreme person, only Brahman is there.
Yeah. That we discussed this, no? Dhama. That word came, na? Tad dhamam paramam mama. So
Yes.
dhama can mean three meanings it can have. It is also meaning the abode, or it can also mean uh, the light. Three meanings it can have. So Brahman also can be interpreted from that Dhamma. Actually, one of the acharyas explains that it is actually saying about Brahman, because the 14th chapter, second last verse, he said that what is that? He attains Brahman. Atito, what is that verse? What's Brahmanoi Pratistham? No, sorry, not that. 14th chapter, no? The second last was there. Mam chaya vivecharen bhakti yogena sevate. Sagunan samtitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. There he said, na. So he will attain Brahman. So obviously that next chapter should be explaining about Brahman only then. Tadhamam paramam mama referring to Brahman, like that one acharya explains. Okay. So
Okay.
and now here when it is saying about the living entities, so they are only saying about liberation. Okay. So all these verses can be interpreted. So just like Chaitanya Charitamrita says, prati shloke prati akshare nana arthakaya. Krishna tulya bhagavat vibhu sarvashaya prati shloke prati akshare nana arthakaya. So the Veda or the Upanishads actually, and all these texts can be interpreted in different ways, not because it is illegal. No, it is fully Shastric and it is fully legal to somebody to interpret it in the way to understand that it means Brahman, because that supports their Jnana Yoga system. Okay. And also it supports the Ashtanga yogis to understand that all is referring to Paramatma. And it also supports those who are Bhakta, those who want to consider that Supreme Lord is Krishna in the personal form. So it supports all of them. That's how the Vedas are created. And that's why Krishna says also in Bhagavad Gita that actually I like to speak indirectly in the language of the Upanishads. Like that he says. I also like that. Yeah, so indirectly he speaks, so which can have multiple meanings. But we may hear in this world a sentence which can have dual meaning. So like that Krishna can speak words which will have more than hundreds of meanings like that. So we can see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke about the Atmaram verse, more than 64 meanings like that. So like that everything can be interpreted in a different way. Like so that is all legal and is all under the boundary of the Vedic system like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Understood.
but yeah, we don't have to be disturbed by that. Why somebody is trying to interpret it in the wrong way. We don't have to be disturbed because we understand what is our path, what is given by our acharya, and we don't criticize those who are in other sampradaya and those who are wanting to follow other legal forms of Godhead, that is Paramatma and Brahman. Okay, it's not wrong, but it's lower. Somebody is satisfied with that, we don't want to disturb them. Okay, like that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Braj.
Okay. Okay, so last two verses of this chapter will continue, and now Krishna will conclude this chapter by saying that how is this Purushottam Yoga. So last section is knowing Krishna means knowing everything. Yo mam evam asammudho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharat. Yeah, Himanshu bro, you want to read?
Yes, friend. Whoever here knows Jananti may Mam as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purushottamam, without doubting, Evam Asamuda is the knower of everything. Saha Sarva with he therefore engages himself in full devotional service. Bhajanti Mam Sarvabhavena to me, O son of Bharat.
Yeah, so those who are asammudo, who are not foolish, who are not deluded by the three modes, janati purushottamaha. they will know Mam, though they will know me as what? Not an ordinary person, but a supreme person, Purushottama. Sa sarvavid bhajati Mam, and by all the endeavors, they will do my bhajana. Okay. Yeah, sarvavit. By no, the knower of everything. He will do bhajana. Who's Mam? Understanding me to be what? Purushottama. Okay, me like that. Sarva bhavena bharata, with all their devotion, like that. Yeah, continue.
There are many philosophical speculation about the constitutional position of the living entities and the supreme absolute truth. Now, in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah. So now Prabhupada is focusing about that Krishna as the person is what is told here. Purusha. The very word Purusha means that has to be a person with eyes, ears, nose, all these things. He has to have the attributes. Then he is called a Purusha. So that's what Prabhupada is focusing here. So that's why he is actually the knower of everything. One who knows Krishna as this supreme person. Okay, that's why Prabhupada many times he will just call him as Supreme Personality of Godhead instead of just saying Krishna. Okay, so he wants to make it very, very clear always that it is Supreme Personality. Okay, personal attribute should be there. And the imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute truth. But the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So there are three levels of knowledge. One is perfect knowledge, which is the knowledge of Bhagavan. Okay. Sorry, there is a perfect knowledge, which is the knowledge of the Brahman. More perfect is Paramatma. Most perfect is Bhagavan. Like that. And similarly, there are three forms also. Perfect form is Brahman. More perfect form is Paramatma. Most perfect form is the Supreme Lord Krishna, or the personal form, like that. So these three levels of forms are always there. So those who are satisfied with the perfect form, that is Brahman form, no problem. But the highest, the most perfect is Bhagavan form. Yeah, please read.
Throughout the whole of Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed as at every step. And still, there are so many stubborn commentators on Bhagavad Gita who consider the Supreme Absolute Truth and the living entity to be one and the same. Vedic knowledge is called Shruti, learning by oral perception. One should actually receive the Vedic message from the authorities like Krishna and his representatives.
Yeah. So yeah, so as Prabhupada is saying that there are every, not every, so many places where Bhagavad Gita is speaking about this fact. Which fact Prabhupada is telling here? Which fact Prabhupada is saying that it's being stressed in Bhagavad Gita everywhere?
Personality.
Yeah, this personal aspect that is being focused everywhere. But those who are actually convinced about the impersonal form, or those who are convinced about Paramatma form as highest, they will see, oh, in every shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, so many places it is told that Brahman is highest. Like even though they may read Brahmano hi Pratishtham, but they will interpret in different way. Okay. So yeah, so what, because they have been practicing it from so many lifetimes. Purva abhyasena teneva hriyate avshopi sah. Yeah. So Sabda Brahma ati vartate. Like that. So one who has been practicing the spiritual life from so many past lives. He may be practicing Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga, any of the spiritual path he has been following. That same path he will continue in the next life also. How? Avasha. And it will be not under his control, but he will be pushed in that direction to continue that path. And whatever he will read also, he'll interpret in that way. Okay. And that kind of guru also he will choose in one's life. Okay, who is convinced about the similar truth. Yeah. So all and still there are so many stubborn commentators. So these stubborn commentators and all those are misinterpreters. Like here also previously it was told, na? Yes, they are simply speculating. These are speculators. These are not those who are actually talking about Brahman or the Paramatma form, but they are telling that Krishna is Maya. All these are speculations. Okay. Or stubborn commentators that Krishna is actually under three modes. All these kind of people, Prabhupada is speaking. Yeah, so they are Mayavadis. So Vedic knowledge is called Shruti. By oral reception, one has to learn. One should actually receive the Vedic message from authorities like Krishna and his bona fide representatives, obviously. Yeah, continue.
Here Krishna distinguishes everything very nicely, and one should hear from this source. Simply to hear like hawks is not sufficient. One must be able to understand from the authorities. It is not that one should simply speculate academically. One should submissively hear from Bhagavad that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is able to understand this, according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of Veda. No one else knows the purpose of the Vedas.
Yeah. So here Krishna is distinguishing everything very nicely, and one should hear from the source. What Krishna is distinguishing very nicely? What Prabhupada is saying about that Krishna is distinguishing very nicely. What is this everything?
Difference between Kshara, Akshara, and Purushottam.
Chara, Akshara, and the Purushottama and the highest Purusha, like that. Yeah, all these things are nicely segregated or explained. And simply to hear like hawks is not sufficient. Okay, so why this word is used here? So if you see in the shloka, the word here is asammudho. Okay, so what is asammudha? So doubt. Yeah, here without doubting. Okay, without a doubt. And previously also, if you remember, this word came. One who is asammudha actually can know about Krishna as he is. So Prabhupada is saying here, who is a mudha? All these people who are like animalistic propensities, or they don't have actually, the animals don't have the intelligence to understand the Shastra or spiritual path. Animals don't have the intelligence. So they are mudha. So like that, there are the people also, those who are having no spiritual intelligence. They are acting as like the mudha only. So that's why Prabhupada is giving this example. One must be able to understand from the authorities. Okay. Yeah, authorities he told here previously also, Krishna and his representatives. One should hear from them. Yeah, it is not that one should simply speculate academically. And just by doing PhD on the Sandarbhas or Bhagavad Gita, that will not help until unless one associates with the devotees. Okay, then one will not be able to actually progress in his spiritual life. So one should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita, and that too from where? Hear from the authorities who are in parampara, not from anybody who is speaking. Yeah. Anyone who is able to understand this according to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas, Savedvit. Like this means what? That he is explaining in this verse that he is Janati Purushottama, one who knows me as Purushottam. Janati Purushottama, knows like this. Okay, he is the knower of the Vedas. And he knows the purpose of the Vedas. So if you remember, one of the purpose Prabhupada told, this whole section is describing these three things. The purpose of the Vedas, the knowledge of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas. Like that. So no one else knows the purpose of the Vedas if he does not understand Krishna as the Purushottama. Okay, like that. Yeah. Continue.
The word bhajanti is very significant. In many places, the word bhajanti is expressed in relationship with the
Bhajati. Yeah, Bhajati is there.
yeah, is expressed in relationship with the service of the Supreme Lord. If a person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness in the devotional service of the Lord, it is to be understood that he has understood all the Vedic knowledge. In the Vaishnava Parampara, it is said that if one is engaged in the devotional service of Krishna, then there is no need for any other spiritual process for understanding the Supreme Absolute Truth.
Yeah. So this Bhajati word, it is coming in many verses in Bhagavad Gita. So Baldev Vidyabhushan has told the meaning of this word. So basically it comes from the root Bhaj. So he has told what is the meaning of this word Bhaj, root word Bhaj. So Bhaj iti eshvai dhatu. This is a dhatu, this is a root in the Sanskrit from which the words are formed. Sevayam parikirtitah. This primarily denotes seva. Okay. Tasmat seva budhay prokta bhakti sabdena bhuyasi. Like that. So tasmat, those who are budhay, those who are intelligent people, tasmat seva budhay prokta, they have explained bhakti sabdena bhuyasi is actually the meaning of the word bhakti. Okay. So bhajana and bhakti, they both are synonymous. And the meaning of the word bhaj is sevayam parikirtitah. It has been well known that it is understood as seva, parikirtitah. That's why Prabhupada is always translating the word bhakti as devotional service. Sevayam parikirtitah, as a service to the Supreme Lord. Okay. So in many places, the word bhajati is expressed in relationship with the service of the Supreme Lord. If a person is engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotional service, that's why, of the Lord, it is to be understood that he has understood all the Vedic knowledge. And what is the essence of all the Vedic knowledge? To know Krishna as Purushottama. Okay. Yeah, so if one is engaged in devotional service, then there is no need for any other spiritual process. Okay, for understanding the supreme absolute truth. So one should not think that, oh, I am doing bhakti, so but I may not be getting all the advancement on all the required things from bhakti. So I should do some other spiritual path to get some of the benefits of bhakti. Okay, like that. So that should not be done. Prabhupada, what he is saying, there is no need for any other spiritual process. Even if somebody thinks that, oh, I am not doing this, like Varnashma system, I am not able to follow. That also is not a spiritual process, but something which in doing which spiritual process is aligned in the direction. So it's a material process only. So one should not think about that, oh, I am not able to do bhakti without Varnashma system, without knowing that I am Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, Shudra, or I am Brahmachari, Vanprastha, what I am, I cannot do spiritual path. That is not the case like that. Yeah, continue.
He has already come to the point because he is engaged in in the devotional service of the Lord. He has ended all the preliminary process of understanding. But if anyone, after speculating for hundreds of thousands of lives, does not come to the point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that one has to surrender there, all his speculation for so many years lives is a useless waste of time.
Yeah. So one has already come to the point what he has understood. Previously it was mentioned, understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the absolute truth or the Purushottama. So that is the he has already come to the point because he is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Okay, he has ended all the preliminary process of understanding all the previous whatever yoga system, whatever must would have been followed. Bhavanam Janmanam Ante Jnanavanamam Prapadyate, like that it is mentioned. So after many births, he might have come to this path of bhakti. It should be understood that he has already completed all that, and all that is not needed now. So after speculating, but if anyone is for hundreds of years and thousands of lifetimes does not come to this point that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one has to, and that one has to surrender there. All speculation, so many years and lives is a waste of time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any question on what we discussed in this verse? Okay. So here Krishna explained about the understanding of him as Purushottama. That is the essence of all the understanding, essence of all the Veda. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Can you read this also?
Yes, sir.
Bhaktivedanta.
He who, he who knows my position as the Supreme Person worships me in all ways. Sarva Bhavena. If I will give mercy to that person who knows the meaning of the Vedas and performs all the angas of bhakti. But he who doubts my position as the Supreme Person, even though he has studied all the Vedas, is actually ignorant. Though he may do all type of worship, he is not a devotee.
Yeah. So he is telling just in essence what was told in the verse. So one should know Krishna without doubt. So what is that word used for doubt? Without doubt,
Asamudha.
what is it? Yeah, asamudha. Okay, one who knows without doubt that Krishna is Janati Mam Purushottamaha, knows Krishna as the Supreme Person, Purusha Uttamaha. So even though he has studied all the Vedas, he is actually ignorant. If he does not know as Purushottama, then he is actually ignorant. Okay. And even though he may do all types of worship, he is not a devotee. Sarva Bhavena is not possible for him. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so the last verse, now Krishna is giving the Falashruti. One who knows this, what will happen? Here he is saying, Iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam mayanagha etad buddhva buddhiman syat kritakritasya cha bharata. Okay. Nimai Prabhu, you want to read?
This idam is the most confidential Guhyam Tamam, part of the Vedic scriptures Shastram, O sinless one, Anagha, and it is disclosed, Uktam, now by me, Maya. Whoever understands this Etat Buddhva will become wise, Buddhiman Syat, and his endeavors will know perfection, Krit Krityahascha, O son of Bharata, Bharat.
Yeah, so what is the Falashruti or the essence of knowing this knowledge? What will one get? What we learnt in the 15th chapter. Okay, so what was learned that Prabhupada will summarize now in this last purport. But here he is saying he will become Buddhiman Syat. Okay, by Etad Buddhva, by understanding me as like this, Etad is referring to what? Last verse. What is that? Krishna is Purushottam. Etad, like this. Krishna is Purushottam. He understands this. Buddhiman Syat. He will be considered intelligent. And what else will happen? Krita kritasya. Whatever he does will be fulfilled. Okay, like that. Kritasya. Most perfect it will become. All his endeavors will become most perfect, like that. Yeah. And then what kind of knowledge is this? This is guhya tamam. It's not guhya. It's not what that is secret. It is the secret among all the secrets. Rajvidya Rajguhyam, as Krishna told earlier in the 9th chapter. Okay, this Bhakti Yoga is Rajvidya, is the supreme of all the knowledge, but it is Rajguhyam. It is also most confidential. Why it is most confidential? Because it's very difficult to understand that Krishna is a supreme person. As a Bhagavan person, to understand him in the Bhagavan feature is very rare. Why? Because the association of devotee is very rare. Okay. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidatithi siddhai yadatamaphi siddhanam kaschid mam vetti tatvatah. Very, very few people are there. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavanam prapadyate vasudevam sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. So to get this knowledge as in the Purushottama form, that Krishna is Purushottama, is very, very rare. Only devotees have, and to get the association of that devotee is very rare. Okay. So Brahmand Brahmite kono Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi by Bhakti Lata Bija. Very difficult to get the association of devotee, and without association of devotee, one can never understand this, that how Krishna is a person, how Krishna is a Purushottama. Okay, like that. So that's the most confidential. Yeah, please read.
The Lord clearly explains here that this is the substance of all revealed scriptures, and one should understand this as it is, given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. In other words, by understanding this philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in his transcendental service, everyone can become freed from all contaminations of the modes of material nature.
Yeah, so this is most confidential nature, and one who understands this will become intelligent and perfect in all transcendental knowledge. By understanding this philosophy, which philosophy? That Purusha Uttama Yoga, that Krishna is the supreme person. By understanding this philosophy, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in his transcendental service. Okay, so where is this mentioned, engaging in transcendental service? Is it mentioned in the verse? Where it was mentioned?
Last
What last one? What is that word which is mentioned?
one. Savitvan bhajati mam.
Ha, bhajati. Okay, that
Bhajati,
word
yes.
bhajati was explained, right? I explained also. Bhaj means service. Okay, so that was explained there. So that Prabhupada is saying, then everyone can become free from all. It's not about only understanding. Krishna did not say that, oh, just etam buddhva buddhiman syat. Just you know this, you will become buddhi man. No, he also said krita kritasya bharatah. That he will also be fulfilled in all his endeavors of doing his service. So when he does the service, so that will bring him the realization, not just knowledge. So it's both aspect. That one has the knowledge, Sambandha Gyan, that Krishna is Purushottama, I am divinity, which is his servant, and also acting in that position. Okay, that Krishna is supreme, and then he is also going to act that yes, I am his servant. Okay, not that only he understands mentally. Yeah, continue.
Devotional service is a process of spiritual understanding. Wherever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot coexist. Devotional service to the Lord and the Lord Himself are one and the same because they are spiritual. Devotional service takes place within the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is said to be the sun, and ignorance is called darkness. Where the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Therefore, whenever devotional service is present under the proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, there is no question of ignorance.
Yeah. So very nice point Prabhupada has told here that first he came to the point of devotional service. That it's not only knowledge. Okay, there should be also service. So there should be both the Sambandha Gyan and there should be the Abhideya. That is doing the 64 limbs of bhakti, doing seva. Okay, so the Abhideya also should be there. Okay, so when these two both are there, then only one can attain one's prayojan. Okay, entering the abode of the Lord or attaining Krishna Prema. Okay, so that is the prayojan. So these both aspects should be there, the Abhideya as well as the Sambandha, and one has to act with both. So if one is only doing service, he does not know about the philosophy, then after some years he will not be there to do the service also, because he never understood for whom he was doing service. What is the goal of this service? He did not understand. He was just doing service. So many times we see in our devotional movement that people come and then they are engaged only in service and very little knowledge is given, or they are not given time to study Bhagavad Gita only, or time to attend these courses. So they are told, no, you should only distribute books. What we will do by reading the books. So then after some years, they will not be there to distribute the books also. And the person who was instructing, that also person will not be there. Okay, both will not be there. So that is the one-sided problem. Other side of the problem is that people are, if they are only just sitting and gaining knowledge, okay, but not doing any active practical service, that also will be other extreme of the problem. Okay, so these two extremes should be avoided both. Yeah, so that Prabhupada focused here, and then he said devotional service to the Lord, and the Lord himself is one and the same because they are spiritual. Okay, so the service to the Lord and the Lord himself, they are both one. Yeah, so devotional service takes place within the internal energy. Yeah, so there are so many verses which Prabhupada quotes also, that how devotional service is a function of internal energy, not external energy. Yeah, so Lord is said to be the sun and the ignorance is the darkness. Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Haya Andhakar. Jaha Krishna Taha nahi Maya Adhikar. Like that. So there is no question of darkness where Krishna will be there. Yeah, so wherever there is devotional service, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Okay. There is no question of ignorance. Yeah.
Everyone everyone must take to this consciousness of Krishna and engage in devotional service to become intelligent and purified. Unless one comes to this position of understanding Krishna and engages in devotional service, however intelligent he may be, in the estimation of some common man, he is not perfectly intelligent. The word anagha, by which Arjuna is addressed, is significant. Anagha, O sinless one, means that unless one is free from all sinful reactions, it is very difficult to understand Krishna. One has to become free from all contaminations, all sinful activities. Then he can understand. But devotional service is so pure and potent that once one is engaged in devotional service, he automatically comes to the stage of sinlessness.
Yeah, so very nice points Prabhupada has told here. So obviously he's continuing from previous slide that everyone must take to this consciousness of Krishna. Which consciousness of Krishna? Janati mam Purushottamaha, as the person. And then he engages in service. Krita kritasya. He does the service. And then he becomes Buddha. Okay. Buddhiman. Buddhiman syat. Okay, that word came. And purified. So from here, this purified, then Prabhupada is explaining about purity. Yeah, purity he will explain here from here onwards. Before that, he says, unless one comes to this position of understanding Krishna and engages in devotional service, so both things again he is saying about the knowledge aspect, the Sambandh Gyan, as well as the Seva. Okay, the Abhidaya, both. If he does not do this both, and however intelligent he may be, in the estimation of some common man, he is not perfectly intelligent. Yeah. And then about purity thing he is explaining here. The word anagha. Agha means sin actually. Anagha means one who is not sinful. Or sinless one. So what he is saying before that, sorry, means that unless one is free from all sinful reaction, it is very difficult to understand Krishna. Okay. But how does one understand Krishna? By engaging in devotional service. So here Prabhupada gave the secret. That by doing devotional service, it is so potent and pure that one is engaged in devotional service, he will automatically come to the stage of sinlessness. Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmana te dvanda moha vinurmukta bhajite mam ananya bhak. So there it is said that how one who is actually sinless can engage in devotional service. Okay. So it is not that one can engage in devotional service only when he has overcome all his sins. Not like that. But what it is said that there Bhajante mam dridhavrita, sorry, not ananya, dridhavrita. So dridhavrita means there he is saying that he will engage in devotional service. Dridha means steady devotional service. That is stage of nishtha. So the stage of nishtha comes after anartha nivritti. So yesham tu antagatam papam represents the anartha nivritti stage. So after one has undergone anartha nivritti stage, then bhajate mam dridhavrita. He can steadily engage in devotional service. It is not saying that one who is completely overcome the sins, then he can start devotional service. No. Otherwise, why to have the anartha nivritti at all in the devotional service process? That is not the right understanding. So that is about the nishtita bhajan kriya or the nishtha stage. And that's what Prabhupada is telling here also. That devotional service one who is engaging, so it is pure and potent that one can actually automatically become sinless. Yeah, continue.
While one is performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees in full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. The most important thing one has to surmount is weakness of the heart. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. Thus, one gives up the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, so Prabhupada is giving the essence, the summary kind of thing in this chapter and very important instructions for the devotees. So while one is performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees or those who are practicing the path of pure bhakti, either Madhyamadhikari or Uttamadhikaris, in full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. These all things should be become zero. Okay, while one is engaging. And how will it become? By one's own endeavor? No. Prabhupada told by just doing bhakti. Endeavoring in doing bhakti, one will become free of all these impurities. Yeah, and one of the most important things is the weakness of the heart. Yeah, and what is that? The desire to enjoy, desire to lord it over material nature. This is the main disease. So if you remember, the chapter begins with the same word, desire. That there can be two types of desire. One is enjoyer, other one is servitorship. So, and there are two trees formed based on this desire only. Either it is the upward tree or it is the downward tree. Both are having the same base of desire. Okay. So it is up to us whether we want to choose the upward tree or we want to choose the downward tree. Whether we want to enjoy the objects or lord it over the material nature, or we want to use it in service of Krishna. So we may have the objects, we may have the whatever assets, house or whatever things we may have, money, children, family, everything. So the desire is what makes it change. The perspective makes it change, whether we are engaging it in the sense of upward tree or downward tree. Thus one gives of the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord if one does not do this, means he doesn't avoid the desire to lord it over the material nature. Yeah, continue.
The second weakness of the heart is that as one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature, he becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. The problems of material existence are due to these weaknesses of the heart. In this chapter, the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart, and the rest of the chapter, from the 6th verse through the end, discusses Purushottama Yoga.
Yeah, so Prabhupada summarized the whole chapter, and before that he told the second weakness. The first was lording it over the material nature, desire to lord over. The second is after that desire is activated, then what happens next? The increase in the propensity to lord it over material nature and enjoy, and then one becomes attached. Okay, so one contemplates on the sense objects, then attachment arises. Yeah, and the problems of material existence are due to these weakness of heart. And then in this chapter, Prabhupada is summarizing first 5 verses were described as the process of the freeing oneself, how to cut down this tree. So nirman moha jita sanga dosha adhyatmanitta vinivritta kama, all these things were described in that. That how, what are the qualities one should have to cut down this tree, how one can cut down this dvandvair vimukta, sukha dukkha samya. All these things were described, that how one can detach it, cut it down from the tree of asanga shastrena dridhena chitva, by the acts of detachment. How will the detachment come? It will come by the practice of bhakti. Vairagya will come as the offshoot of bhakti. Just like when we do cooking, we don't desire the ashes to be produced if we are doing cooking in firewood. So the ashes are not desired, but offshoot it will come. So like that, the detachment will automatically come when we endeavor to engage in bhakti very nicely. Like that. So that was first 5 verses about detachment. And then 6th verse onwards, Purushottam Yoga was described, that how Krishna in the form of Paramatma, he is giving energy to the through the sunlight, moonlight, and then he also told about that how he is becoming the fire, digestive fire. He is entering the planets and holding them up. How he is trying to supply all the needs of living entity as the sense object, empowering the sense objects, giving the taste to the sense objects, giving various attributes to the sense objects, at the same time giving empowerment to the senses of the entities so that they can enjoy, like that. And in between, whatever interaction is happening, like digestion, that also Krishna is only upholding. Okay, so living entity enjoyed the sense objects, the interaction also Krishna is only making sure that they happen properly. So these were described in the last 5 verses, last 15 verses, like that. Yeah. Please read this.
Thus,
Baldev Darshan, yeah.
Uji, can I read now?
Yeah, I read.
Thus, knowledge about the Supreme Person is praised. From the 15th chapter, one learns that the person who is different from the conditioned and liberated souls and who supports and is superior to both of them is the Supreme Lord Krishna.
Yeah, so this is Baldev Vidabhushan's summary to this chapter. So the knowledge of Supreme Person, Purushottama, is praised. And from the 15th chapter, what one learns is that the person who is different from Kshara and Akshara, both, and who supports and is superior to both, Uttama, Atita, all these words were used for the Supreme Lord. Okay. Both of them is the Supreme Lord Krishna. Yeah, any questions what we discussed till now in these last two verses? Okay. So we will continue the next chapter. Devi and Asuri Sampat. That is continuation of this chapter actually. Yeah, so this chapter Krishna told about the tree. So next chapter now, Krishna is going to explain what are the fruits of this tree. So two types of fruits are there. One is good, other one is bad. So what are these two fruits and what are the characteristics of such fruits? That will be described with the 16th chapter now. Okay, so divine and the demoniac natures. That is title given by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, so divine and the demonic natures. Devi, that is divine. Asuri, Sampat. Okay, Sampada is, in one sense, it is the thing one holds. Okay, like that. Or the nature one has. Okay, like that. Yeah, so what is the connection? As I told, previous chapter described about the tree and its various fruits. Okay, so one was explained that how Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is there. And then previous to that chapter, we discussed about the three modes. So this divine, it will explain that how it is actually the goodness, the fruits of the mode of goodness. And the demoniac will be like the Rajogun and Tamogun, the passion and ignorance. Okay, so these two modes, one who subscribes, they will be attaining the demoniac nature. The fruits will be taking them downward. So if you remember that picture which we showed from Bhagavad Gita, it has few fruits or few entities which are lower in the region. So tree is downward obviously. So it's the top of the tree and the bottommost part in the picture. Okay, and at the above parts we saw the divine parts, the demigods, and then those who are practicing the Sattva Guna. Okay, those who are practicing for the Varnashrama system. Okay, for them. So why Varnashrama? That is told in these first three verses of this chapter now, that how the qualities, different things which are mentioned here, okay, they are the expected of a particular Varna and Ashrama of the society. So we will see this. So first 6 verses will describe about the qualities, what kind of fruits they are going to produce. Yes, Amit, any question?
Guruji, why Rajas Guna is associated with demonic quality?
Yeah, we will see. This chapter will answer this question.
Okay, sure.
Actually, yeah. So I don't want to break down the suspense.
Sure, Guruji.
Yeah, it will come. Okay. Maybe you can read the translation. Let's do the sloka first. Yeah. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Satta Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yagyascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Yaga Shantir Apaisunam Daya Bhuteshu Aloluptam Mardavam Hrir Achapalam Teja Shama Dhriti Taucham Adroho Naitima Natimanita Na Atimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Devim Abhijatasya Bharata. Yeah, please do.
Hare Krishna Guruji, Dandavat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, fearless, abhayam, purification of one's existence, sattva samshuddhi, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitaha, charity, Danam, self-control, Damaha, performance of sacrifice, Yadnaha, study of Vedas, Swadhyaya, austerity, Tapaha, simplicity, Arjavam, non-violence, Ahimsa, truthless, Satyam, freedom from anger, Akrodha, renunciation, Tyaga, tranquility, Shanti, aversion to fault finding, up, apyasunyam,
Apaishuna.
apaishunam, compassion, daya, for all living entities, bhuteshu, freedom from covetousness, covetousness, alolupyam, gentleness, mardavam, modesty, riya, steady determination, acha,
Alam.
palam, vigor, teja, forgiveness, kshama, fortitude, dhrutiya, cleanliness, shaucham, and freedom from envy, adroham, adroha, and from the passion for honor, na ati manita. These transcendental qualities, bhavanti sampadam devim, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature, abhijatasya.
Yeah, so the divine qualities is the first three verse. Okay. First six, divine and demoniac both are there. So first three are divine qualities. Okay, so what are these each qualities? Prabhupada will explain now in this purport. Yes, please read.
In the beginning of 15th chapter, the banyan tree of this material world was explained. The extra roots coming out of it were compared to the activities of living entities, some auspicious, some inauspicious. In the 9th chapter also, the devas or godly and the asuras, the ungodly or demons were explained. Now, according to Vedic rites, activities in the mode of goodness are considered auspicious for progress on the path of liberation, and such activities are known as Daivi Prakriti, transcendental by nature. Those who are situated in the transcendental nature make progress on the path of liberation.
Yeah. So Prabhupada is giving the uh, summary or background of this chapter. What I explained in 15th chapter was the banyan tree, and extra roots were explained as compared basically to the activities of the living entities. Some auspicious, some inauspicious. What are auspicious? Those who follow the path of Vedic system. Those who are not following the path of the Vedic systems or Vedas, they are inauspicious. Very simple, like that. And then he is saying that how progress actually leads, Daivi Sampat leads to liberation. That is the highest fruit of the tree. Okay, if you remember the tree which I explained earlier in the BBT photo, liberation was the highest fruit actually in that. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, Moksha was highest. Yeah.
For those who are acting in the moods of passion and ignorance, on the other hand, there is no possibility of liberation. Either they will have to remain in this material world as human beings, or they will descend among the species of animals or even lower life forms. In this 16th chapter, the Lord explains both the transcendental nature and its attendant qualities and the demonic nature and its qualities. He also explains the advantages and disadvantages of these qualities.
Yeah. So he is saying that same thing. That 16th chapter, it will be explaining these two things, divine and demoniac. And before that, whatever question you asked, a short answer is
Yeah.
given. That the mode of passion and ignorance surely, but passion also is included in the possibility of not giving liberation.
Yeah.
So liberation, if you see the last point Prabhupada told, this comes from goodness. Okay, so that's why goodness is called Daivi Sampat. and other two, passion and ignorance, are asuri sampat. And we will see also later in the 70th chapter that asuras and rakshasas, they are in passion and ignorance actually. Okay, and the devatas are only in goodness, like that. Yeah. And then yeah, obviously that which is either they will have to remain. Yeah, so both of these, they will have to remain in this material world as human beings in the earth, madhye tishtanti rajasaha, like that, or they will go down into the lower end, this one entities. Yeah, yeah, continue.
The word abhijatasa.
Jatasya.
Mataji has a question.
We will take after
Okay,
this purport. Yeah.
The word abhijatasya, in reference to one born of transcendental qualities or godly tendencies, is very significant. To beget a child in a godly atmosphere is known in the Vedic scriptures as Garbhadana Samskara. If the parents want a child in the godly qualities, they should follow the 10 principles recommended for the social life of the human being. In Bhagavad Gita, we have studied also before that sex life for begetting a good child is Krishna himself. Sex life is not condemned, provided the process is used in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, so Prabhupada explaining the word meaning abhijatasya. Okay, so here we started explaining abhijatasya. So in reference to one born of transcendental qualities of godly tendencies, and that one carries from past life. Okay. Okay, one can surely generate in this life, and when he goes in next life, then he will continue that godly qualities. So whatever association he takes, that he will continue. So now Prabhupada is telling about dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamo asmi bharatarshabha. That passion, okay, that which is engaged in Krishna service is not actually which is condemned. Yeah.
Those who are in Krishna consciousness at least should not beget children like cats and dogs, but should beget them so that they may become Krishna conscious after birth. That should be the advantage of children born of a father and mother absorbed in Krishna consciousness. The social institution known as Varnashrama Dharma, the institution dividing society into 4 divisions of spiritual life and 4 occupation divisions of or caste, is not meant to divide human society according to birth. Such divisions are in terms of educational qualifications.
Yeah. So the same word abhijatasya he is continuing to explain. Yeah. So now Prabhupada is explaining about this Varnashrama Dharma, that how the qualities which are being mentioned, these 26 qualities mentioned here in this verse, are actually pertaining to different Varnas and Ashramas. And same thing Baldev Vidyabhushan has also explained. Okay. Yeah. So now Prabhupada is explaining. Yeah.
They are to keep the society in the state of peace and prosperity. The qualities mentioned herein are explained as transcendental qualities meant for making a person progress in spiritual understanding so that he can get liberated from the material world. In the Varnashrama institution, the sannyasi or the person in the renounced order of life is considered to be the head or the spiritual master of all the social statuses and orders. A Brahman is considered to be the spiritual master of the 3 other sections of the society of a society, namely the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. But a sannyasi who is on the top of the institution is considered to be the spiritual master of the Brahmanas also.
Yeah. So Brahmana and sannyasi, these two things are mentioned. So among all of them, sannyasi is even higher to Brahmana also. Okay, why? Brahmana can be grihastha or brahmachari both actually. Okay, but sannyasi is above both of them, like that.
For a sannyasi, the first qualification should be fearlessness. Because a sannyasi has to be alone without any support or guarantee of support. He has simply to depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one thinks, after I leave my connections, who will protect me? He should not accept the renounced order of life. One must be fully convinced that Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his localized aspect or as Paramatma, is always within, that he is seeing everything and he always knows what one intends to do. One must thus have firm conviction that Krishna as Paramatma will take care of a soul surrendered to him. I shall never be alone, one should think.
Yeah, so Prabhupada started explaining the verse here. The first one is Abhayam, fearlessness. Okay, that is explained here. And that is the quality of whom? That is the quality of specifically sannyasi. Okay, that is the first qualification he has. That should be fearlessness. Okay, and what kind of fear here? He has said that if I leave the connections, which connections? The family connections, then what will happen? Then I may not be protected. So that person is not supposed to take to sannyas order. Okay, yeah.
Even if I live
Yeah,
in the
continue.
darkest Even if I live in the darkest region of a forest, I shall be accompanied by Krishna, and he will give me all protection. That conviction is called abhayam, fearlessness. This state of mind is necessary for a person in the renounced order of life. Then he has to purify his existence.
Yeah,
There are so many rules and regulations to be followed in the renounced order of life. Most important of all, a sannyasi is strictly forbidden to have any intimate relationship with a woman. He is even forbidden to talk with a woman in a secluded place. Lord Chaitanya was an ideal sannyasi, and when he was at Puri, his feminine devotees could not even come near to offer their respects. They were advised to bow down from a distant place.
yeah. So Prabhupada is continuing about Abhayam, that conviction that Krishna will give me protection. So some of these also applies to brahmachari also, specific for sannyasis. But brahmachari also, a person when he is joining the brahmachari ashram, they should have this conviction that yeah, Krishna will give me all protection, even if the let's say the institute closes today or it does not take care of us, then Krishna will give the protection. Okay, and it's very easy to say like this, what Prabhupada what he is saying, but it's very difficult to actually follow it and to actually have that conviction. Yeah, and then Prabhupada is saying about the next purify his existence is sattva samshuddhi, second quality of the sannyasi. Sattva samshuddhi. Okay, the second one that he has explained. So there are so many rules and regulations one needs to follow, niyam and uh, all this yama and niyama. And most important is not to have any connection with the opposite gender. And the example is given of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. Yeah. So
This
okay,
is
we'll
not
just
a sign.
complete this part of the sannyasi and then we'll stop. Yeah.
This is not a sign of hatred for women as a class, but it is a stricture imposed on the sannyasi not to have close connections with women. One has to follow the rules and regulations of a particular status of life in order to purify his existence. For a sannyasi, intimate relations with women and possession of wealth for sense gratification are strictly forbidden. The ideal sannyasi was Lord Chaitanya himself, and we can learn from his life that he was very strict in regards to women. Although he is considered to be the most liberal incarnation of Godhead, accepting the most fallen conditioned souls, he strictly followed the rules and regulations of the sannyasa order of life in connection with association with women.
Yeah. Okay, 1 minute. Yeah. Okay, just this slide we will continue.
One of his personal associates, namely Chota Haridas, was associated with Lord Krishna along with his other confidential personal associates, but somehow or other, this Chota Haridas was looked lustily on a young woman, and Lord Chaitanya was so strict that he at once rejected him from the society of his personal associates. Lord Chaitanya said, for a sannyasi or anyone who is aspiring to get out of the clutches of material nature and trying to elevate himself to the spiritual nature and go back home, back to Godhead, for him, looking toward material possessions and women for sense gratification, not even enjoying them, but just looking toward them with such a propensity is so condemned that he had better commit suicide before experiencing such illicit desires. So these are the process for purification.
Yeah, so this second was Sattva Samsuddhi for the sannyasi. Next, Prabhupada will explain about this next item, third one, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi. Okay, so that we will see in the next class. Okay, we will pause here. Yeah, Dayamani Devki Mataji, any question?
Yes, Suji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, in the starting of this verse, we were discussing, we saw that Rajas and Tamas takes to, are taking us to the lower grades.
Yeah.
And goodness will take us to the upper planetary systems, like for Svargaloka or other. So to go beyond that, if even to the Brahman, one has to transcend goodness also. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. One has to transcend goodness also, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, goodness is a platform where one can go towards transcendence. It's difficult to go from passion and ignorance. From goodness, one can easily go. That is the point. So last time I gave this example that it's like the runway. When the aeroplane has to take off, so runway should be there. So it has to run to certain speed, then only it can fly and transcend basically from the ground level. So goodness is like the runway. And then taking off is after he has actually done some running on that runway. Yeah. And some extreme examples or examples which of Kripa Siddhi may be there, of who did not have to follow this path, but directly from passion and ignorance, like Mrigari or Angulimal, all these people, directly they were given mercy that they could go. Yeah.
So, Prabhuji, if we can understand, like even Nirvisheshvadi, Shunyavadi, whoever is going to that Brahman stage, and the Bhakta, he is attaining that Dham only. So all of them are transcending the goodness. Only thing is, the goal that they have fixed is totally different. Like for a Bhakta, it's the personal form of the God, and for others, it is like Brahman only. So only the goal is different. That's why they are in a different place. Otherwise, they all are transcending the goodness, like all these three modes.
Correct.
Is it correct?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll stop here. Already time. So we'll continue tomorrow this chapter. Heavy Asura Sampad Yoga. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vijay Namaste.